So, we're here with Marcus and Cain. Would you call yourself the owners of the White Hart? Proprietors of the White Hart? Landlords of the White Hart? Brewers? What would you call it?
Custodians.
Custodians. So, our first question for you really is, how did you get to be the custodians of the White Hart?
Do you want to say the story?
Okay.
Right. Originally, we didn't come here to buy the property. We already had a pub at the time, and we were building a house, and we thought, oh, it'd be nice if it had a thatch roof on it. So I saw in a magazine that this pub was for sale. So I said, why don't we go along, just nosy parking, to see how the thatch roof is constructed, and to see whether we could put one on this new building. So that's what it all came. We came along, pulled up outside the front, and it was like, wow, this is amazing, this place. So we came in, and the only spot you could actually see the thatch roof was in a little tiny cupboard up the one end of the building. You couldn't really see anything. So we'd wasted our time. We couldn't see how a thatch roof was constructed, but we knew straight away that we wanted to buy this. So that's how it started, basically. And we came back for a meal the second time. And we said to the owners, we could see you're for sale, and we did a deal over a meal, and we ended up buying it.
When was that? What year was that?
93.
In 93, yeah.
So we talked about it before Christmas. It was about October, November time, and the deal was done. Now we were in here by just before March.
So it's quick then. It's quick.
Yeah.
But obviously the brewery side of it,
yeah,
and your distillery and everything wasn't here.
No, that came about we were looking at something different, and in one of the trade papers, it was an advert for a small brewery. So we contacted the man and just inquiring, and he told us, take it and have a go with it, and if you like it, we can negotiate on it. If not, just return it. He was quite trusting, and we liked having doing the beer. When we did the first ones, there was a few mistakes and things, but we learned quickly. And the idea was that we just had a different beer on. But once we did our own beer, nobody wanted the commercial beer anymore. They kept asking for ours. So over the years, it's evolved to we just sell our own beers now.
But in those days, nobody made their own beer,
No,
did they? It was something
new.
It was now there's quite a few pubs that make their own beers around. But it was something that we wanted, because you keep needing to do new things in a pub to attract people. Otherwise, people get bored with what you've got there, or everyone else is doing the same thing. So it's better for business if you can do different things.
So that's quite a lot of investment and work and time and effort to build the brewery on site. How long did that take you to build what you've got now and put in place what you've got now?
Well, that was done over a couple of years, because when we started, it was done quite cheaply. So it was the little kit, and then we had a couple of casks.
We had a Wendy house, didn't we?
Yeah, a little summer house that was out the back that wasn't being used, so we utilised that. And then, like I said, the beer started to take off, and more people wanted it. So then we talked to a pub that was closing down, and they had a little brewery in it down in Portsmouth, and we got their kit, and there was a couple of issues with it, but we put those right ourselves. So we kept the cost down, and that squeezed it into the Wendy house, and it went on from there then. And then,
well, we even had a visit from Prince Charles. He came here and made beer in our little brewery, and he quite enjoyed doing it, didn't he? He said he liked that sort of thing because he had his own brewery, and he enjoyed helping out doing this. So he made a mash for a beer. He made the Kuro Blasis ale, which everybody drinks at the moment. So yeah, that was a nice day, wasn't it? When he came along and visited.
So obviously we've had COVID, and the lockdown in your industry was massive impact. So lots of pubs and restaurants have not reopened since then, have never come back. So how did you cope with COVID?
Well, we were lucky, as we had the distillery, suddenly they needed alcohol, because there seemed to be the saviour was alcohol. To wash your hands in alcohol, literally bathe in alcohol. So we had the facilities to make it. The NHS were desperate. So they came to us and said, could we make some alcohol for them? We said yes. And it started from, they wanted 1,000 litres a week. And then the next day we had a phone call, could you do it every day? So we upped the game. We had some tanks delivered. We worked with Brains, so they were helping us along to make the mash, so that because our facility wasn't big enough, but we had the stills that were big enough to do it. So then we were turning out to.
They were making us beer, weren't they?
Yeah,
basically. And they were delivering it here in tankers, so you can see the milk tankers, but they were bringing beer along like that. We were pumping it into some tanks that were in the car park at the time, and then we pumped that then down into the distillery, and well, all day long the distillery was running, producing alcohol for the NHS.
So we run that was run for just over 3 weeks. We worked hard, basically 24 hours a day. So really we were set then for the COVID time. We were okay, whereas the pub was shut, so it was nice to have the time off.
Yeah, and obviously Mr. Sunak did the eat out to help out, whatever it was called. Obviously that opened up a little bit, but you had to make major changes in this beautiful pub.
Well, we had to keep the distance in. Was a difficult thing, because once you tell somebody they can have something for nothing, it sets people off, and they've got to get it as fast as they can. So they were queuing out the door. It was a crazy time, but it was good for our industry, but it was crazy for the time. So that went on for a month, and so
yeah, no, the only good thing about COVID is when you work in this industry, every weekend is taken up in the pub. If you're in the country, you work in the pub. We'd never had time off like that before. It was like a new thing. And then when we had to start back work again, it was like, oh no, we have to work again now, do we? But I did, it wasn't a nice time for people because obviously they were dying. But for a change of, different lifestyle, it was nice. I could have gone back to that, yeah.
And when they opened up initially, we all had to be outside. We were allowed inside, so people would come in and we had some marquees up, and people were sitting in these marquees. It's pouring down with rain, and we've got to take the food from inside, outside, and into this marquee. It just seemed absolute crazy. They could come in to go to the toilet, but that was it. It was a nuts time. And
people would say, please, can we come in? No, we can't. And some people would get angry about it. It's not fair, you're in there. But that's the law. We're not allowed to. And we were being reminded by the Carmarthen Council that if we broke the law, they would be prosecuted. So it was not as if we could, just let people in sneaky, because it wasn't worth it. You don't know who the people are who are in with you. They could be testing you,
So obviously the family live here as well, in the buildings out the back and here as well. So that had an impact too as well, because it's not only that, it's not like a pub that you shut the doors at the end of the day and go home. You live here, you work here. The family's grown up here and now they're working here. How has that sort of influenced your business to make it a family affair?
Well, we want to pass it on. We could sell up and and live nicely on it, but we want the next generation to have a good grounding, and they can move on, and they've got a good lifestyle as well. It is hard. If anybody was to say I want to come into this business, it'd be difficult. I would say no, because it's so tight now. But we're in a good position because we've been doing it for a while. Everything we've got, we own, so we don't have somebody knocking on the door asking for money. It's so when times get a bit tight, we just tighten our belt a bit and we can get past it. And with the family involved, you've got to turn up for work. So you guarantee that you've got your workers.
But it's quite a strain on the family, though, because say you've had an argument, most people, you can go to work and then you can get away from each other. But with this business, as soon as the door opens, you got to smile and pretend nothing's happened. You just get on with it, and nobody knows you've just had a falling out or a disagreement about something. But at the end of the day, it's good. There's good rewards in it. We've been lucky, and
we're together. A lot of families they don't see each other all day. We do see each other, and you discuss things. So if anybody has an issue or a problem, we hope that they can talk about it and get it sorted rather than it becomes a big thing, you know.
Yeah, and we're obviously doing something right as a family, because I've got 3 daughters and all of them are in the business now. They haven't gone off to work anywhere else. This is what they've always wanted to do. So yes, it's hard work because it's very tight, and when everybody else is enjoying themselves, you're working. But it does mean you get good rewards out of it, and everyone is happy.
And having the family here obviously brings its own internal challenges, but the challenges of running a business in 2026 are a lot more difficult than when you started taking over the pub in 1993. It's a lot more difficult now to run a business in 2026. And what are your challenges? What do you find is difficult for you right now?
Well, at the moment, we have the insurance is due on the property. So, for instance, everything has just shot up in price. And we ask them, why has it gone up so much? And they said, oh, that's how it is now. Everything's going up. They don't give you a reason why it's gone up in price. It's just all the bills, everything is just, and people as customers don't want to pay more. They want us to, they say, that they're paying enough. So it is your profits are slowly being eaten away at. And, it is harder now, isn't it?
It does get to a point that, are we going to be working for nothing? Well, there's no point, might as well close the doors for that and we'll just earn more money. So, it is a difficult times at the moment. And this industry seems to be getting knocked all the time. And the worst thing is when people come in and tell you you're expensive, but if they had the bills that we've got to pay, they'd realise we're not,
We're not a normal place. It costs more to keep an old building like this, warm, even logs. They're not cheap. You see logs, they're only cheap. You try buying cheap logs now. You can't buy cheap logs. Everything, like the electricity, the lights, takes a lot more lighting in here because it's a small, the windows are smaller and it gets dark. You need the lights on, and heating. There's lots of drafts that run through here. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just an old building. But I wouldn't like to be in a modern building. The old-fashioned is nice. The character
is what brings the people in.
Because we live in this property, though, we don't see the character so much anymore. When we first came here, you can feel it feels really old, but now because it's every day for us, you don't see it so much, do you? You don't feel it. But it is a lot tougher now than it was years ago.
Yeah, well, you could just open the door years ago and people would come in, but now you've got to have a reason to come here. So that's why we try to do the beers, and the nice meals, and just a friendly atmosphere here, so that people want to be here.
Yeah, I think the old days of just going to the pub for a drink, like a lot of my father would go to the pub for a drink, for instance, just on a Sunday. That seems to have dropped.
That's gone
completely.
Because
that's gone.
But you can understand that. Why does the husband go for a drink when the wife also would like to go for a drink? You know what I mean? You can understand why that's changed around, because I suppose the old-fashioned of the woman stayed home and did the cooking and the cleaning is gone now, hasn't it?
And you used to get the farmers who'd sit on the bar, and with every pint they'd have a tot of whiskey. You don't see those people anymore. So we've got to push for a different customer, and the food is the big side at the moment. Try and encourage people in and to have a meal and a drink. And
do you think that's the major changes? Because obviously you're adapting all the time to the different landscape that's changing, and adapting to pressures, business rates and insurance, as you say, and everything else. You have to adapt, don't you? You have to continue to change.
You've got to change it, otherwise you'd be like the dinosaurs. I suppose you die, won't you?
Well,
you've got to keep changing.
We've started to take on this social media to try and get a wider audience so they can see, because people soon forget about you. So should we try and another angle? So this is
we do get people who come in and they say, we only live 10 miles away. We didn't realise you were here. Because I suppose because you've got the main road outside, which is the bypass, you tend to stay to the main roads, so you don't come through all the country lanes and things, so you wouldn't know we were here. So the idea of the social media is that people, maybe they can see us then on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and they can see that we're here.
And they can actually see the building as well, because there isn't many like this in this country of a whole, especially in Wales. So,
well, this year, or last year rather, we had it rethatched.
Yeah.
So all those things, last time we had it thatched, it cost us £20,000 when we first came here. This time we had it thatched, it was over 60,000. That's how much things have jumped up Do you know what I mean? It's amazing how the bills have gone up.
And there's
so
no
much.
help from the government.
No.
All this nonsense about help, they don't help any existing businesses. It seems to be, if I'm a startup, they throw a little bit of money at you. But if you're in existence, you're forgotten.
You can afford it, is the attitude, I think.
Yes, it seems to be that
but
they're actually...
Very often you can't afford it.
They're against you as opposed to helping you a lot of times.
Yeah, they do like to help new businesses, which is, the Welsh Government love helping new businesses, but they don't like... Same with insurance. You say you've been with an insurance company for 10 years, they seem to think it's not okay to give you a discount because you've been with them 10 years. No, they'd rather give you a discount if you're a new customer. Yeah. Just doesn't make sense, you know what I mean?
And the fact we're thatched, there's not many insurance companies will actually accommodate us anymore. They seem to think the thatched buildings all burn down, but it's not the case. Well, they're probably the safest because you're more cautious with a...
We've been here, this pub's been here over 600 years, and there's no signs of any fire that's happened on the roof, because when they do the rethatching, they can see this sort of thing. So,
So to see it, 600 years later, listening to you, it's really hard work. Okay.
It is,
This is 7 days a week.
Yeah.
It's constant. On some aspect of the business, not necessarily serving people, but I don't think people appreciate what goes on when you're not open, when those doors are closed. You're doing something.
There's always something to do.
So the big question is, of all these years later, we're talking 23 years later? No, not that. 33 years later.
Yeah.
Do you still enjoy it?
Well, if you said you enjoy 100% of it, would be no. But there's aspects of it that you do enjoy, and the way we see it, the grass is not greener over the hill. So it's what we know. So we've got to continue with it. If we went and did something else, would it be worse? Would it? So you're better off sticking to what you know and try and be the best at what you do.
I like the fact that we're all family and we get on, and your family's always got your back, sort of thing. So it's different for going to work for somebody else. I like the fact that we're all together, basically, so I can keep an eye on everyone and check everyone's happy, and you know what I mean. We don't have to worry so much about people,
If you don't want any pressure, you don't want too much load on yourself, work for somebody else because you don't get any of that. But if you want the challenges that it brings, because every day is a different challenge, because you work for yourself.
But the thing with your own business like this is, if say nobody came in today, you still got to take that. You've got to on the chin. Yeah, you just got to. But if you work for somebody else, you still get paid, wouldn't you? If there's no money coming into the till, then you don't get paid. But that. I think the benefits outweigh the negatives, sort of thing.
So, if somebody was considering coming into the pub trade, so it's 2026. They're you in 1993. They're looking at a pub to buy it, because there's lots of them up to let to buy. And what advice would you give?
Well, first thing I would say is do not let the pub, because you work hard for your landlord, because he will put your rents up. He will take control of your spend, because you're beholden to him. So you're better off buying a small little pub and building it up than to go and lease a bigger one and end up working for him, because that's all you're going to be doing. He'll be rewarded, and you'll be leave there with just your suitcase.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think I could do this working for somebody else. All the hours you put in and everything, because there's a lot of unpaid hours you have to do, in a pub. But
so I think twice. If I was coming into it and you haven't been involved with it, I would think twice at the moment. Nobody supports you. You're on your own. So so I would think be very careful. You don't end up with no money in your pockets. Yeah. And you're on the street.
There's a lot of people who leave with just their suitcases.
It's very sad.
Yeah, it is, and the hours as well. You don't realize how many hours. Like I say, you have to do every week.
And you'd be lucky if you get the days of the pub that opens and has drinkers in there. There's only a few of those left now that are successful. Most of them are on their heels because it just costs so much. And
these days, years ago, there were a lot of pubs around, but none of them did food. I think most pubs now do food. So there's a lot more competition as well. And a lot of the big chain pubs didn't used to be this far up. After the M4, they seem to stop. But now they've realised that there is people up there. We don't all live in caves in Wales, and there is money up that way. So there's a lot of the big companies have moved up this way,
So knowing what you know now,
Yeah.
all the ups and downs of the last 30 plus years, rethatching and everything that you've done to adapt, would you still buy it?
100% I would.
Yeah, it was at the time. It was the next phase in our life, So if something similar came up again, we might do the same again.
I have said to my children, if when we pass on, if they do decide to sell the property, I would come and haunt them, because I would like this to stay in the family for forever, basically. Because the last family who had it before us, they had it for 400 years. So I'd like to it to carry on in our family, and it gets passed down, because you cannot get something like this again, because probably a big chain would end up buying this property after, if they would take it on, and they're never the same, the pubs, once they move into that sort of.
No, they would. A big chain would rip the heart out of this.
They would.
They would.
Like all around here, there's lots of artifacts. There's lots of bits and pieces. We're lucky in this area. We don't get anything stolen. Well, very rarely do we get anything stolen. I think the big pub chains, everything would be screwed down. It would be. Do you know what I mean? That's just the way they operate, I suppose.
So obviously you've got the family coming through. They're all working here now, including people that are married into the family as well. Is it going to be your legacy that this stays here for another 600 years?
Well,
we'd like it to be, yeah.
How it would change, I don't know, because like I say, we've evolved since we've been here. What the next generation do, I don't know. But as long as it remains as a pub, and maybe they'll have rooms in the future. You just don't know how it's gonna pan out. But I'd like to see it stay in our family for the next 500-600 years. But time will tell.
And if you were sitting now and I was the Prime Minister, or our wonderful cabinet that we have now, and you could influence in any way, they would take something from you and say, right, I will change it. What could you do to help the pub and the brewery trade? What would be your change that could help?
Well, a big problem that we have is VAT is added to everything. So everything we purchase in, straight away the 20% goes on it to sell it. So that if they were to take that away or reduce it, would be a big help, because that would straight away give us an instant boost. But for some reason, this luxury industry, they seem to want to heavily tax it. And any profits that we make, they like to have their fingers in it. But if everybody's happy making a bit of money and they're living well, they continue. But if you keep knocking them down, you'll end up with nothing. And then once this industry's gone, what are you going to have then? You're going to have the supermarket to buy your stuff in and sit at home drinking. And are they going to make their money from that? I doubt it very much. Because the supermarket seem to have the government screwed down.
Well, I don't know really what they could do. No. Maybe if you're a business who are going to stay there for long term, maybe they could offer discounts off insurance and things like that. If you stay there for sort of 10 years, then you get discounts off things to show that you're long term, because a long term business is better surely than sort of one that starts up today, gone tomorrow. I don't know, some sort of scheme to give you a discount.
We employ people. Okay, we may not be a massive employer, but we employ people on a regular basis, whereas you've got companies that come and go, and then once the technology comes in, they'll sack off their staff because they've got a robot to make it. In this industry, you can't. You've got to have the manpower. So we'll always have those people, which will give jobs locally.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've always thought, that sometimes when there's a big company and they employ thousands and thousands of people, if they get in trouble, they bail them out.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a smaller company, even if you've been there 30 years, if you employ 5 people, your fault. There doesn't seem to be the grassroots help.
And there's a culture in this country, people like to see people fail. I don't know what it is. If somebody sets up, they don't say to them, "Oh, that's good. Hope you do well. We'll support you." No. I know he's going to fail. It's in. I don't know what it is.
They condemned you before you started.
Yeah. That's not going to work. But give it a try. You don't know. And there's lots of pubs that, going back to that theme, they closed down, and then people say, "I don't know why it's closed down." Well, if you supported it and you were there once a week, it wouldn't have closed down.
Yeah.
But they don't look at that.
No.
They just complain, oh, this pub's closed down, they want to change it into a house. It's got no choice. It's got to go because it's not viable anymore.
So, potential customers who are viewing this on social media from around the world, because it is worldwide on social media, obviously not just here in
Well,
Cyprus.
we've got, at the moment, we get a lot of older people come here. So they're perhaps retired or they're well, they're set up and they're well going. So we'd like, not the silly youngsters, the mature youngsters who are just starting out in life, and perhaps they've got a small family, they start to settle down. So they would, they're the next generation of customers, and so that they would come into it as well, and they hopefully are seeing the social media and like what they see,
And anybody passing on their way down the A48 on the way to Tenby and Saundersfoot and these places,
any tourists, we'd encourage them to come in
and have a stop and enjoy the White Hart. You've seen it on social media, you've seen the walkthrough, and you've seen where we are, but come and experience it, I think is
it's a unique pub. I think there's not many like it, and especially in Wales, we're one of the last traditional old pubs, and owned by a family, not owned by some multi-chain, which makes a big difference.
Yeah, so we're slower to change things, so it's remained similar over the last 40, 50 years, because you think to yourself, oh, should I put a couch in the bar? And you think to yourself, no, I don't think so, because it's not what we want to be. So we're glad we haven't changed, because a lot of the pubs, they've ripped the hearts out of them when they changed them in the 90s.
There's a lot of oldie worldy pubs around that have taken, there's no ornaments in there. They've gone for like this bistro look, and we didn't want to do that. Yes, it takes a lot more cleaning and that's I can understand why they've taken all this sort of knick-knacks out. But when you walk in here, it's oldie worldy. You feels like you've set back 600 years, which is what we want, It is an old pub, so why not shout about it and let everybody see it's an old pub?
And if anybody wants to taste any of your wonderful gins, vodkas, beer, cider, they can do so online as well, can't they? Because we've got an online shop.
Yeah, we sell quite a bit through the online shop, and so you can see before you
have a look at our shop and the videos on there, and you can see exactly what we do. And if you really like it, order some bits and we'll send them off to you and you can try it.
Because some people might be watching this that think, I'd love to come to South Wales, but I can't travel, and I'd love to taste your beer. They can do that as well.
Yeah, we've always got new things on the go. Like at the moment, we're brewing a heritage brew, and that's going into old wooden barrels. We've had a company make us wooden barrels like they used to have years ago. So we're going to mature some beer in that and bottle it. So that'll be coming online soon as well. It's just we want to try and do new things all the time for people to try.
And the casks that we've had commissioned have got glass ends, so you can actually see the beer inside maturing. So we think that's something different, because you don't generally see what's inside the container. Yeah.
And if people are in the area and they're on holiday and they come down, they can also come for a tour, can't they?
Yeah.
You can. We have a distillery tour which you can book online on a Tuesday or a Thursday, and we'll show you around, show how we make our spirits. You get the good thing at the end, and you get to taste everything. Just make sure you're not the one doing the driving.
So that's fantastic. If you had a final message for the viewers of this channel, obviously we want them to subscribe and to keep up with the updates, but share it far and wide. But what would be your message to people?
I'd like to think that they'd come and visit us eventually. They'd see what we do and come and visit the family and come and say hello to us.
Yeah, that's basically it. Come and say hello to the Coles family and what we've sort of achieved here, what we've built over the years. We want other people to see it and share it and come and enjoy it, really.
And there's nothing more rewarding than when people have enjoyed themselves and they tell you that they've enjoyed themselves and they've had a nice meal and they've even just come in for a drink and they've enjoyed themselves. That's enough, we like that sort of thing.
Come and stop over on the way.
Well, another thing as well, if we've got lovely gardens outside, come and enjoy them, because the season is very short with outside. So come and enjoy the gardens,
Summertime is ideal.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for that. That was fantastic. We'll put this up on social media. and hopefully people will listen to what you have to say and will pop in.